and let us all do we can to build a better future.
What I wanted to talk about really came to my attention because of all of the backlash recently against the Batgirl film being canned. While it was in post-production, it was supposed to actually be released in August, like this August, but they canned it right before it was supposed to be released.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, so, you hear lots of things about, oh, well, it was a wreck, it could have been. It could have been, but guess what? We'll never know, because due to the merger of Discovery and Time Warner, which is now called Warner Bros. Discovery Plus, is the new name of the company, lots and lots of projects were canceled. Several of them were in the last stages of post-production, like Batgirl. The reason that they say that they canceled it was because of they felt the tax write-off would be more profitable for them than the way that they had chosen to release the film. They were only going to release it on the streaming platform.
Okay.
But that to me says, why did you choose to release it that way then, Warner Bros. Time Warner Discovery Plus? Especially, and they worried that they were like, the tax write-off is going to make us more money. It's going to be great. And this is why they canceled a lot of these new content. Like there was a Scooby-Doo thing that they canceled.
Oh no!
It was called Scoob. It was called Scoob, and it was something like holidays. It was like a special.
Oh, it's like Scoob.
Right? It's very sad. I love to see more Scooby-Doo stuff. Yeah. It's a great thing. But it's not just that Time Warner and Warner Bros. Discovery Plus has merged. They're also talking about merging real Discovery, like the full Discovery Plus and HBO Max, and merging those two under one umbrella as well. Because officially it's not merged yet, those two, even though they're owned by those companies. But every single time these companies merge together, we lose a lot. Mm-hmm. Amazon merged with MGM. Disney and Fox merged together as well. And now, there was an Onion article that I saw recently, and it was from years ago, but the headline was, there are now only 3 companies.
So everything that you see in here.
And it's become true. Like, what are the other big media companies out there? There just really aren't any. And every single time these companies merge together, we lose content. And they always say, well, this way we're able to provide more for you. We're able to get more content in. We can get more diversity in. But guess what gets deleted first? It is always, or at least the majority of the things that are getting deleted and they get canned or canceled or just dropped entirely, it's queer content. It's content made by people of color or that promote people of color in that content where they're the main characters, or women are the main characters, where people with disabilities are featured prominently. Every single time these mergers happen, the first things to kind of drop like flies is minority content and kids programming, or both. The kids content that also promotes any of those things. And it's always like, oh, well, we just don't have the viewership for it right now. We need to make sure that we can focus on reaching our target audience. And there's always, it's like, well, what is your target audience? It's not the American people. Like, a lot of the shows that they end up getting rid of are incredibly popular. Like, if you're talking kids content, The Babysitter's Club was a massively popular show. It was apparently really, really good, too. And it just got dropped for no reason. And they didn't tell the creators that it was being dropped. They didn't tell the creators it was being deleted from their programming. A lot of Cartoon Network shows were dropped from this, and the Discovery Plus thing. They just dropped, gone. So much kid content goes away. So much kids content goes away, which is just, what are the kids supposed? Now the kids are just gonna have to watch the worst stuff because you're getting rid of all the things that is actually appropriate because maybe there's a character that can be conceived as queer on it. So it's not just that these media companies are glomming on each other and just eating each other up. I'm just waiting to see who buys who first, Amazon or Disney, honestly.
So here's my concern when you have these corporations coming together, want to buy the other out, and we have them becoming one large entity as a whole. What you have is then a single institution that controls all entertainment. Now, right now, the United States at least what we used to say in the show, there were 5 corporations that controlled 92% of the media.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, 5 whittles down to 4, to 3, to 2, to 1. You have one major conglomerate controlling every aspect of our media, information, be it on newspapers, radio, television, cable, the internet, all of that. And this is a way to control information that's being given to the people, to keep us forever propagandized to one perspective, one point of view. Now, my other concern is that as this continues to happen, as you have these corporations merging, I can't help but think of how this was done, how the door was open for this to happen, was under a Democratic administration, Bill Clinton's administration, former President Bill Clinton's administration, where he signed the Telecoms Act. And that's what led to the situation that we're in right now. Now, how does this impact you, the viewer, the consumer, the person who is watching entertainment, who has probably streaming services or, likes to watch stuff on social media? This controls who can actually eventually set up their own YouTube channel or any kind of social media presence. This is a way to control what kind of information is given to you. And this leads towards a dark path and calls into question the future of free speech in this environment that looks like it's coming into fruition. I didn't want to take away anything. I know you have a few other things.
Just a few other things, yeah. So in that same vein, though, when we keep getting smaller and smaller with the different companies who are producing content, we, again, get closer and closer to just, this is the one way to see things. This is the one way to view it. You can't look at outside perspectives. And that just makes people, again, like we were saying earlier about an echo chamber, it just continues to keep that echo chamber getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And media, I feel like people don't always think about how much it actually does affect how we view the world. Mm-hmm. Representation matters. It matters a lot. I used to adore any movie or TV show that had a girl character who would be arching with the boys. My favorite character in Rocket Power was Reggie Rocket because she was awesome and she could do all the, she was the only girl in the group. And there's always one girl in the group. And, when she's allowed to do the things that the boys are doing, I was always super into that because a lot of the time she had to be the butt of other people's other jokes. And you don't see too many shows where there's more than one girl character and there's a bunch of boy characters. And so whenever there is one, and, so when people freak out, the Ghostbusters movie is all with the girls, why do we need to do that? It's because everything is for men. Everything is the boys. And I don't care about the Ghostbusters girl movie. I'm not going to say that was good or anything. I'm just saying I understand where we need to have more, we need to see more people in action doing things regardless of what they look like or where they're from or what they're physically capable of. Why can't we have more actors who are in wheelchairs doing that performance instead of having people who are totally capable of walking doing that performance? Why can't,
I think what we have to do is realize that we do have monopolies that are controlling everything. You have to break the monopolies.
Right.
Go ahead.
And I am getting to that.
Because also someone else brought up in the chat here, representation is great. The problem is it still has to make money if capitalists are going to keep doing it.
Well, the thing is, though, if something comes out that represents a faction of people who have not been feeling seen, those people are going to go see it. There's a reason that people get so upset about shows or movies queer baiting. It's you got all of these people invested, and the reason your viewing numbers are so high is because people are looking to see themselves in these characters. This is what happened with Supernatural specifically. A lot of the numbers were from queer viewers because there was a couple of characters in there that were coded as queer but never allowed to do anything, and then every so often rug would get yanked from under them, and it's oh no, they're super straight though, but they're straight. Oh, but maybe. And so it's you bring people in, and that is where people want to see the content that represents them and people who look like them. So if you produce that content, people will watch it. But as you were saying about these monopolies growing and conglomerating and getting bigger and grosser and fatter. The whole reason that I even started looking into this in any kind of depth at all was because of a comment from Roger Meadows last week talking about antitrusts versus nationalization. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't fully sure what these were. So just in case anybody else is in the same boat and they weren't entirely certain what those two things were, a trust is a group of firms or industries organized to concentrate power and reduce or eliminate competition. And so antitrusts are antitrust laws were meant to make sure that didn't happen anymore, which really kind of started after the Rockefeller, after J.D. Rockefeller had everything under Standard Oil, and he kept pretending that everything was different, but it was actually the same. So I have a graphic that kind of represents that. It's about Nestle.
Nestle.
Yes.
So a corporation that really cares about people.
So, but that's what it kind of looks like. It's like you have lots of different companies that have lots of different things. Just graphic. Lots of different things, do lots of different types, candy and clothes and skincare and all sorts of things, but it all still funnels back up to Nestle. So that's...
Oh, Willy Wonka, they got you too. Oh, Willy Wonka, face. Looks like we're not going to the chocolate factory anymore, buddy.
So that's why we're trying to avoid happening. And then nationalization is the transfer of a major branch of industry or commerce from private to national or state ownership or control. So antitrusts are supposed to break those corporations up a little bit and actually keep them separate. Whether that actually works or not is debatable. Sometimes it seems like it kind of works for a little while. Other times it doesn't really work. Nationalization is trying to give more power to state or governments to make things a little bit more even. So like they do that with like railways a lot. Or they'll nationalize it for a little while and then give it back into private hands is what often happens with nationalization, is what I found. I do want to show the Disney.
Yeah, let's see that.
The Disney graphic, because this is wild.
All hail the Dark Lord of the Two Moons.
Look at all of these companies that Disney owns, and
Mickey's a Skaven.
So many of them don't even really relate to each other, and this is the problem because you don't think about all of these things being owned by the same corporation or the same company, but we're still. You think you're getting something separate, but you're not.
Can we zoom in a little bit more? I want to see the people see that. It's just everywhere what they can see, who controls what. Marvel Studios, yep, Disney's got that. I control all your heroes.
Mm-hmm.
You think you're safe?
Although Marvel I did. That's the other thing I did want to talk about too. Specifically with Marvel, which is just kind of fun for me that. In March, Marvel sent Disney the copyright termination notice for the use of its characters. So now Disney has sued Marvel for copyright rights. Yeah, great. So I'm really, really hoping that Marvel wins this. If they win, it doesn't mean that you're not going to see any more MCU movies. Disney will just have to pay for the rights to the characters again. Which they can afford. If you look at that graphic, they can afford it. So I'm really, really hoping for a win for Marvel for this one. I need them to keep their characters. It's so much more interesting what's happening in the comics with these characters right now than what's happening over on Disney or Disney Plus. You can do so much more in those comics than you can do with this because Disney is still kowtowing to China. And they're not going to show anything that China doesn't agree with.
Yeah, well, look how Disney heavily censored. What was the name of the actor in the Star Wars, new Star Wars movies that came out? He played the Stormtrooper.
John Boyega?
Yeah, John Boyega. They literally shrunk his character. Mm-hmm. And then there was one of the love interests in the film. Spain was in the second one. And they cut her out.
Kelly Tran.
Yeah, Kelly Tran. And they put an alien there. They put an alien, some random alien that looked kind of very phallic looking. I mean, that's some sort of slug alien that didn't really have much of a big role in it. What else?
Disney is the king of any kind of lip service and then brushing it under the rug. Yeah. Any LGBT representation they ever put in their stuff is kept really, really short so that it can be easily cut, or it's left ambiguous so that it can. It's maybe it's not that. It could be anything. Or it's just turned into both ambiguous and comic relief. So it plays well, again, in China mostly. And it's just like, this, and they own everything. And so, of course, like, we're not going to be able to see good queer content because Disney can't show that to, like, they're worried so much about their bottom line, even though their bottom line is so big. They can afford it a little bit to show some other stuff.
So this goes back to my theory that Mickey is definitely a Skaven. So shout out to my Warhammer fantasy fans. He is a Skaven. He is the great Skaven god. He is the rat god. And you know all I have to say is, I'm gonna own all your heroes.
Yep.
All your favorite shows.
So
I'm gonna own Tiny the Mouse.
we can try and look for like antitrust possibilities for some of these companies, trying to break them up. We need to stop letting them merge. Also, like, I thought that's what the antitrust laws were supposed to prevent. We're supposed to stop it from happening. And again, nationalization has often been used to take something out of private hands, fix it, or at least change some of the rules and regulations, and then allow it back. So that's happened to railroads. It happened to this railroad in Philly during World War I, I think, that the railroad workers were striking because they didn't want desegregation to happen. So they were striking, but it's in the middle of a war, and so they needed the railway to move, materials. So the government took it, nationalized it, forced them to train Black workers, and then eventually gave it back. And then it was desegregated. They couldn't resegregate. I don't know how that would work necessarily for like nationalization for telecom companies. But if we can figure out a way to actually solidify some of these antitrust laws and actually solidify ways to make sure that it's like, nope, we have to take a hammer to that. You can't do that. We have to have this under something separate with different management, different people. Just shuffle things around in some kind of way. I want to be able to see more diverse content. I'm not necessarily personally going to be looking for different shows that I'm currently watching, but I like the idea that it's out there, that things will be promoted, that I'll be able to find them. Anyway.
Well, this is the world we're living in, where everything will be controlled by one entity. So all hail the Dark Lord of the Two Moons. All hail the Great Mouse. He is the great consumer of us all. And if you want to watch something, you have to ask the mouse for permissions.